Hello and welcome everybody back to another video. In this episode, I'll be recapping the Saints versus Seattle Seahawks game for Week 7 of the NFL. It was a nail-biter of a game, but we were able to pull it off and got a big win on the road. If you like the video, remember to like the video, and if you like my content, then feel free to drop a subscribe. Alrighty, let's get straight into the recap for the game. The Saints won this one in a close one, 13-10. It was an ugly win. The offense didn't do too well, but we were able to get it done. It was enough to get the win, and I will cut them some slack. It was raining in Seattle, which, of course, would limit us in the passing game, and, of course, you saw a couple of drops by the receivers, so I will cut them some slack. It was enough for us to get the win. Now, let's look at some of the stats from the offense. Offensively, it was, as I said, ugly, but we got the job done, and Alvin Kamara pretty much just carried us through the entire game. He had 179 of our 304 offensive yards, which, I mean, it's just amazing. And, of course, he won Offensive Player of the Week for the NFC, if any of you had heard about that. And I think it was well-deserved, as he pretty much put the offense on our back and carried us to that win. And 128 of those yards were in the air because we weren't really able to get the run game going too well, which is surprising. In a rain game. You would think that you would see a lot more runs that are effective, as that's really the thing that's going to actually get the ball moving, since the passing game isn't going to be as effective when the quarterbacks can't throw the ball as well. Now, did we see Geno Smith play that well passing? No, but it's Geno Smith for one, and our defense played phenomenal, and I'll get to that in a little bit here. We had 3 yards per carry rushing and only 94 total yards, which, going against Tampa Bay, we're going to need this run game. So I don't know if Jameis Winston is going to be that great going into his revenge game. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we can get the rushing going, but once again, congrats to Alvin Kamara. He played phenomenal once again. Now, Jameis, looking at the passing game, he didn't play bad at all, I will say that. He was still frustrating to watch at points, and he did show the heart in that one-on-one that he had with Traquan Smith. He was really getting in his ear, telling him, what are you doing? You should have ran that route. It was the play where it was the offensive pass interference on Traquan Smith, where he kind of runs downfield and looks like he's almost just blocking his man, and the ball just flies over his head, and they call him for OPI. It's a weird call for one, but two, Traquan really wasn't even on the lookout for the ball, and it was just really confusing, and Jameis got in his ear and was telling him, look, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing this. And Traquan didn't really respond well, and that's not a good sign. I haven't been the highest on Traquan Smith, and that kind of just furthered my belief that he's not necessarily going to be a beneficial receiver for us going into the future. I mean, with who we already have on the roster, our top 3 receivers look like Michael Thomas, Marquez Callaway, and Deontay Harris. I don't really see room for Traquan Smith if he's going to be playing like he is. He's not playing well, and he doesn't seem to be responding well to constructive criticism and people trying to make him better. I don't really see a spot on the roster for him. That 3rd-round pick is not looking good for us when we picked him up. I liked it at first, but now he's not really shown what I would like to see from a receiver. And, of course, if you look at Michael Thomas, he was not a first-round receiver, and look how he panned out. So we have big expectations for these receivers that we don't take in the first round. I'm not too thrilled with how Traquan Smith did, but we got the win nonetheless. Maybe he can pick it up later on in the season when Michael Thomas comes back and his role gets relegated a little bit, but that's here nor there. Now, one of the key things I would like to say from this game is watching Jameis Winston was quite frustrating, but at least 5 or so of his 16 incompletions were drops by the receivers. There was 2 of them which were really, really good passes by Jameis, but one was dropped by Kevin White, which I don't even know how he dropped that. And the other one was a drop by Kenny Stills, which hit him in the hands, but there was 2 guys on him, and the guy did hit him as soon as it hit his hands, so I can cut some slack on Kenny Stills, but the one for Kevin White, that's just sad. I don't even know why Kevin White is still on the roster, to be honest with you. So, overall, it was a good day from Jameis. He's showing the heart and want to become a good quarterback, which is all I can really ask from him. And he's not playing bad. He's not making that many mistakes. So I can't be too upset or too down on Jameis. Now, I made a bet that if we win this game against the Bucks, I will buy a Jameis Winston jersey, and I am standing by my word on that. I still believe that we are not going to beat the Bucks, and that if we do, I will buy a Jameis Winston jersey, and that is a promise. Now, offensively, Troutman and Harris, I said we're going to have breakout years before the year started, and to put it bluntly, that is not looking good. Troutman has been average at best, I would say. But this game, he had a very costly fumble that could have ended up losing us the game if our defense wasn't playing so well. Troutman, I'm very, very disappointed to see that he took a step back after getting the starting role. I mean, we hoped he could fill the shoes from what Jared Cook left, and I wasn't high on Jared Cook as our tight end one, and I'm not high on Troutman as being our tight end one right now. So our tight end group is not looking too good. We've had good tight end groups in the past, but looking at it now, we're kind of relying on our beat-up wideouts to actually do things for us in the passing game. And now Deontay Harris, he was having a phenomenal year before he got injured. So his breakout year, if he comes back and still plays well, I guess you could consider it a breakout year, but he's going to be out for a few games, so that kind of hurts my prediction on that. Now, a little bit more on the injuries later on. Now, let's look at defense for right now. They were the stars of the show, just no doubt. I mean, once again, our defense is having to step up and win the game for us. 5 sacks, which I believe is the highest of the season, if I recall correctly, which our defensive line has not really been getting back to the quarterback and sacking him that much. And a lot of that plays on Cam Jordan. A lot of people, including myself, would like to see some more coming from him because he just hasn't had the production that you would like. Now, you could say in the past that he's setting up sacks for our other defensive linemen. He's holding his edge and allowing people like who we had last year in Trey Hendrickson, setting him up to get sacks. But it just looks like at this point that he's just not able to beat his man as much as he used to. And that's okay. It comes with age, and he's still being productive, but just not at the level that he used to. But that's here nor there. Besides the 5 sacks, we had 9 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, and 8 QB hits. Now, the majority of those stats came from Demario Davis, who was just... I can't even put into words how well he played this game. I'm surprised he didn't win NFC Defensive Player of the Week with how well he played. 2 sacks, 4 TFLs, and a pass deflection. Him and Kamara carried us this game. And it was mainly in the last stretch in the fourth quarter where Demario Davis, he had a fire lit under him. He was flying around and making plays. Now, he does this all year, every year for us, and he flies under the radar. But in the lights of Monday Night Football, he stepped up huge. He was just insanely good for us this game. I mean, his impact was felt by everybody, not just Saints fans. People saw how effective he is on defense, and I finally think he is starting to get some recognition, which is fantastic. Now, I said Demario Davis for Defensive Player of the Year, and that was mainly a joke. I do hope he can make an all-pro team, though. He's looking like an all-pro linebacker. He's looking like one of the best linebackers in the league, just period. He has been an absolute baller this season. Now, stats will not necessarily back that up. He's up there in sacks and TFLs for linebackers. Tackles, not necessarily, but our secondary and other linebackers have been tackling phenomenally. We can get the first person there and tackle them, so Demario doesn't have to come in and clean up. So looking at the tackles and stuff like that isn't going to necessarily point to him being an all-pro. But if you look at him on film, if you look at the sacks, the TFLs, the pass deflections, he's been playing amazing. Now let us move on to the secondary. They played well enough for us to get a win. After that big 80-plus yard touchdown that was allowed by Lattimore in the first quarter, they were pretty stout after that. I mean, Lattimore, on another note, was a big issue for us. He had a couple of penalties, and he was not playing up to expectations that game. He was talking a lot to DK Metcalf, and it was, I will admit it, DK was in his head. DK was just completely in his head. He, every time, made any sort of move at Lattimore, Lattimore retaliated. And now, as you know, with the referees, it's always going to be the one that retaliates that gets the penalty. And that's how it went this game. Lattimore retaliated multiple times, and he got the penalty multiple times. That's an issue. I haven't really seen Lattimore get into that much of fights with wide receivers. I mean, besides Mike Evans and the Bucs, he always does that. The Bucs are always chippy with us, and I expect the same thing in this game next week. So, hopefully, we can keep the chippiness to a low, keep the penalties to a minimum, because penalties were a big issue for us this game, and was one of the reasons why we could have potentially lost this game. Now, the defense had the penalties, but they also were able to hold up stout. So, hopefully we can fix the penalty issue going into next week against the Bucs. Because as many of you probably know, penalties and giving Tom Brady shorter fields is what wins him the game every time. We need to keep Tom Brady on his side of the field so we can limit his scoring. And that's where special teams is going to come in huge. Let us transition to that. Quick note before we get to special teams. Pete Werner and Paulson Adebo playing phenomenally this season as rookies. I can't say much else besides I'm so happy that we got that. Now, special teams. It's a pretty big weakness in terms of the scoring aspect. Let me put it that way. We don't have a reliable kicker. Will Lutz is now out for the season. That is a huge, huge problem. Rookie Blake Johnson, I believe is his name, is going to be our kicker for probably the rest of the season, unless we do some sort of kicker rotation like we've done in the first couple of weeks. I hope that's not the case, and I hope that he can kind of fill the hole for us, because we're going to need somebody with just even somewhat reliable kicking throughout the rest of the year. We have no starting return man as of right now, with Deontay Harris being out. The backups that we have a returner are Callaway and Kamara. Those are not people that we want to have on return duties in case they get hurt. That's a pretty big problem. Hopefully Harris can come back soon so we can fit him back in and have our starting return man back. Other key special teams players such as Taysom Hill are out, which he's been a phenomenal special teams player for us and just a phenomenal player overall. So hopefully we can get him back in the next couple of weeks, and maybe our special teams can pick it back up in terms of the kickoffs and kicking field goals. But besides that, Blake Gillikin has been, he looks like prime Thomas Morstead. He has been just absolutely insane. He's had, 5 punts inside the 3-yard line in the past 2 weeks? I mean, that's just insane. He's putting the defense in such a fantastic position to hold them inside their own 10 and set up our offense in great field position. Our whole team is kind of running around special teams right now, mainly the punter. And he's stepping up, and he's getting these punts down inside the 20, inside the 10. I can't recall really more than a couple of punts that haven't been inside the 20 from this guy. He's just been absolutely phenomenal in terms of punting. So I'm just so happy that we have him now. He's just been a phenomenal punter overall for the 3 phases. Defense has been probably the best, I would have to say, followed by special teams and then offense. Offense, once we get some more consistency in our scoring, then we'll be set. This would be a playoff team if we can get our offense at a consistent pace. But that is still yet to be seen. Now, let us look at the injuries for the team. Pete is going to be out for the season, so we have a pretty big hole there on offensive line now. And as I said earlier, Will Lutz is out for the season, so we don't have any current reliable kicking, which is pretty scary because kicking's won us games in the past. It has. Will Lutz has just been a very, very clutch kicker for us, and losing him is a very, very big loss. Peyton Turner, once again, we draft a defensive end, and they're out. It happens every single year. It's happening with Peyton Turner, and it happened with Davenport, which, I mean, he was still injured in the beginning of the season, so we seem to not be able to escape from the defensive end injuries that we get every single year. Taysom Hill, Deontay Harris, hopefully we'll be back against Tampa Bay. I haven't heard any word if they will or will not be yet. Also, no word on Michael Thomas, who I'm really hoping we can get him back soon, but it's not looking like we won't get him back until around Tennessee when we play them in about 3 weeks. So we have some very key injuries still out for us, which is another reason why I can't see us beating Tampa Bay. Those pieces that are out are so big for us that I can't see us beating Tampa Bay. If we were fully healthy, maybe we have a shot. Maybe. Just maybe. But as of right now, I can't see it. And now let's shift our focus fully onto this Tampa Bay game. I would have to say this is our biggest challenge yet. I mean, Green Bay week 1, yes, they were a tough challenge looking at it in the beginning, but then we just blew them out, so we didn't really know what Green Bay was then. Now, looking at this game, it's going to be a very, very tough game to win. We're going to have to play perfect football in order to win this game. And I haven't seen perfect football from this team. Not even in the game against Green Bay. That was still not perfect football necessarily. So perfect football is going to have to be done in this game if we want to win it. And as I said, if we do win, I am buying that Jameis Winston jersey, and you will see that in the video that I make with the Saints recap for that game, along with clips from the game, highlights, touchdowns, stuff like that. I will have videos incorporated in case any of you do miss the game. Then you will get to see some highlights from that game next week when I incorporate the footage into that Saints recap. I don't see our offense having the firepower to keep up with what Brady can do to our defense. If we can keep Brady on their side of the field and not allow them to get starting field position on our side, maybe we have a chance of winning, but it's unlikely. So once again, stay tuned. I will be at that game. There will be live Twitter updates, so follow me on Twitter at Alex Weister. And I'll have live updates and videos from that game, and that's pretty much going to do it for this Saints recap. So thank you all for watching once again, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.